Hey everyone, welcome. Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching this. I'm CyberZero. This will be my second video for my channel overall, the first in this series. I'm not sure how this is going to go. I'm trying it again, and what I mean by that is I was recording once already, and I realized that the desktop wasn't being recorded, and it should be now. But anyways, what we're doing today is I'm going to preface this, or I'm going to go through what I've been writing for a series of articles. I have a series of articles out there of the Windows security baselines that I've been writing, and it's how I delivered and wrote a baseline using ConnectWise and a tool from Microsoft, and how I put that all together 5 years ago. And I use that, and I still could use it in my business for delivering a security baseline, a enhancing cybersecurity of a Windows 10, Windows 11 host machine, desktop machine, or even a server product. I use this in both ways, and I'll talk about that. And I got into the habit of writing this. I have a series of 4 articles out there. And I got to the 4th one, and I thought, okay, how do I want to do this where I can double check to make sure what I'm saying is true, consistent, what have you. And then I started thinking, well, maybe I should do a video, a catch-up video. I don't want to be a content creator, but I partially feel like you need to, because it feels like in this field, if you're not actively writing, actively creating, actively enhancing security, you're not taken seriously. And my stance has always been, well, if you're working 8 hours a day, plus doing certs, plus doing more education, plus trying to live a life, I don't know where you're supposed to have time for that. So I can't do bug bounties and things the way I want to if I'm trying to work 8 hours a day. So I'm trying to contribute where I can, is what I'm getting to. So with this, I have a series of these 4 articles. And when I pushed out the 4th one a couple weeks ago, or a week ago now, I said, okay, said to myself, all right, let's readdress this with, let's start doing videos and go through these articles and make sure that that they work the way I think that they do. And that's the whole idea, concept. And if I find something that doesn't work, I can correct the article and then correct it in a video. However, that will work. And then maybe, if like I said, if I don't really want to be a content creator, but if I'm doing this long enough, or if I do this well enough, I really don't want to make money off of this, but at the same point in time, I might charge like a very small nominal fee once I get enough content. And when I say nominal, I mean like maybe $4 a month or something like that for the videos, or maybe for the articles. I don't know, something like that. It's honestly being worked way in the back burner of my brain of how this is going to work. But anyways, I have these articles out here, and what we're going to do today is I'm going to go through where you can download the evaluation versions of Microsoft Windows products, and then if I have enough time, if it works fast enough, I'm going to go ahead and create a virtual machine. And maybe I should have actually done this already earlier, meaning download an ISO. So from there, I'm going to go here. This is the Microsoft Windows, or the Microsoft Evaluation Center, and this site is where a person can sign up and download different versions of Windows and install them as a virtual machine or as on an actual piece of physical hardware. And evaluate it, see how the product works. And this is great for this type of concept, a blogging concept like this, or for students. If you're new to cybersecurity IT and you're saying, well, I want to know about Windows Server 2012, or I want to build a domain, this is a great place to go. For us, I'm not going to go through all of this, but for us, I'm going to go to Windows 11 Enterprise, and I'll make one or two distinctions here with this. Again, I'm not going to go over everything, but this is for Windows 11 Enterprise. You can see right here, they give us an overview. This evaluation software is designed for IT professionals interested in trying Windows 11 Enterprise on behalf of their organization. Your organization can be your home life. We do not recommend that you install this evaluation if you are not an IT professional or are not professionally managing corporate networks or devices. That's fine. That's fair. That's true. Still, if you're a student, if you're trying to get into IT, um, this works well this works well at home or in a virtual machine. What they mean by this part right here is don't do it. Don't take this, install it, use it, and then think you're going to continue on using it. For the Windows 10 and 11 versions, I don't think Windows 10 is out here anymore, but they put the desktop products out here. I think it's only good for 90 days. Let me see. Here we go. You register, then download and install the full-featured software for a 90-day evaluation. So while we're doing that, while that's since that's been discussed, I'm going to go ahead and download the ISO Windows 11 Enterprise, and I'm going to come back and look at this and talk a little bit more about this. By registering, I don't put in the real information here, and maybe I shouldn't say that, but it's the truth. I'm just going to go ahead and do test at Microsoft.com. At this point, Microsoft doesn't require that it be a valid email address. They don't send you an email, or at least the last time I did this, where you have to click the link and get the product, get the ISO. So I'm just going to put in dummy information. Probably shouldn't say that, but it's the truth. If they change it, that's fine. But a lot of these companies, in my opinion, do it where they have the stuff open so that they can say how many people are using their products. And again, maybe that will change. So fill this out. And as you can see, I'm just putting in basically dummy information. I'm not going to put in my real phone number. And no, I don't want to receive information. So download now. Oh, country code. Where's the United States? There we go. United States. So just putting in fake data and then download now. And once that's in, it takes you to the next screen. And it shows us different versions of the language that we can download. I'm in the United States, so I'm obviously going to go with English United States. They've got English Great Britain, Chinese, French, German, Italian. Don't need to consider those. Just going to go with the 64-bit version of Windows. Click on that. And let that download. Yeah, we'll see if I end up making multiple videos today. Well, maybe this will finish. I won't have to stop and restart the video. But going back here, this version is good for 90 days. This is good for people that want to evaluate it, or in my case, I'm going to use this for creating a VM. I'll walk everyone through a VM, show how to install the agent from ConnectWise Automate, and then get that going. That'll be a big old video, and then follow my blog post here, right? So anyone that wants to follow me or start learning with me, I teach with Clarisway on Thursday and Friday nights, and if those students ever watch my videos, feel free to, learn some other stuff. That's what I'm here for and doing. As I've said before in my teachings or my classes that I teach, I'm not a professionally trained speaker, hence you hear all my my pauses. That's fine. I have no problem with that. But especially with this field, there's so many concepts, terms, technologies. I could be in the middle of teaching and another tangent will come up of this is true, and then I want to go on this little aspect of it when it comes to networking or server products or the cloud, what have you. But anyways, for right now, we're downloading Windows 11. This is good for 90 days. This is version 23H2. It's a 64-bit ISO, which is just an image file. This will work perfectly for, like I said, an evaluation, a teaching context, things like that. If I go back, the reason why I'm saying this, I'm prefacing this, is because if you go to the server product, Windows Server 2022, and if you scroll down to how long this will be, this is longer, I think. Where's this at? This is good for 180 days. So I don't think I'll ever get into making a video where we're going to take Windows Server and have a domain. I have an old computer with a Windows Server on it. Um, I'll probably use that if I need to, but I don't think we'll ever get to that. I don't think this channel will ever get to that. But for students that want to do this, you know about the Evaluation Center now, right? If you ever watch my future videos or if I'm ever doing anything, and I'm not sure how that's all going to play out, how many videos I'll end up doing, but if I'm doing something with a virtual machine, there's this video where I take us through how to download these things. And you can download Windows Server product and have it for 180 days, create a virtual machine, and take it from a don't work group to a domain, and then have a Windows client, Windows 10, Windows 11, as long as you have Windows Professional or Enterprise or Education version, you can add that to the Active Directory domain and see how those products work together is the whole concept. I say that because Windows Home Edition, which is what most people buy from the stores out there, they don't know the differences. And if you're just looking to get online, if you're just looking to do Facebook, use a browser, you don't need Professional or Enterprise. It's nice if you're trying to get into IT or cybersecurity, but especially starting out, Home Edition works fine as you gather more knowledge, meaning doing your reading, doing your studying, things like that. But this is being downloaded, excuse me, and it's already almost done. So what we'll end up doing is creating a virtual machine. By that, on this computer, I actually have on this computer I have three installs, three items installed, or three desktops installed, three operating systems installed. I have Windows 10 on one partition, and then Windows 11 on another partition for one hard drive. And then I have Linux on another hard drive entirely, which you can't see in here. I have Kali Linux that I run, and I do development work for an application, a web application that I'm writing about Yara, and nothing to add to it other than it's an educational video to teach people about Yara, and I'm doing it to teach myself learn coding and things like that. Hence all of this that I'm doing. But for this, we're going to do a virtual machine. We're going to create a virtual machine. And I'm showing this because when you're creating a virtual machine, you have to be aware of how much disk space you have, right? This is my Windows 10 partition. And that's why I started moving over to the Windows 11 partition, because I've only got 50 gigs left. I could free some of that up, but it's almost not worth it, especially with Windows 10 being retired end of life at the end of next year. So I decided, okay, let's switch over to Windows 11 and start working with that. And especially if I'm buying any new software for this, doing streaming, blogging, things like that, I want to use it with Windows 11, even if I don't really love Windows 11. Excuse me. In time, I will. But I need to have enough disk space free if I'm going to create a virtual machine. And I do. I've got about 400 gigs free. From there, I use what's called Hyper-V. Hyper-V is a product within Windows, not Windows Home. You can actually get it in Windows Home, but that's outside this extent or the boundaries of this video. You generally need Windows Professional and Enterprise. And in the control panel, in Programs, in Turn Windows Features On or Off, let's click that again. This comes up, and where is it? It's right here. If you're on Windows Home, if I remember correctly, you won't have this option to put this check mark in. They say there's a way of doing it. I found out 5 or 6 years ago that it's there. They just don't provide this nice GUI to select it, and I found a PowerShell script to do it, which you're not supposed to do, so I didn't do it when I found that script 5 years ago. But on this version of Windows, I can install Hyper-V, which I've done, which is why I'm pointing this out. So if you want to run a virtual machine natively within Windows, this is what you've got. Now, if you're in this field, or if you're getting into this field and you have a virtual machine, if you have a hypervisor, which is a virtual machine manager, such as Oracle VirtualBox or VMware. I think VMware is now free from Broadcom since they bought bought that company, um, you don't want to mix and match, meaning you don't want to use VMware with Hyper-V. Use one or the other. The reason why I say that is because, specifically, Hyper-V and uh, Hyper VMware Workstation Player Pro, they conflict, and they kind of conflict pretty hard. It might not be the same anymore. What I mean by that is when I taught at the college level, um, they would conflict, and there'd be hard conflicts of certain error messages, and it's because either Hyper-V or Workstation Pro were installed at the same point in time. And I'm talking about you couldn't create virtual machines. So if you've been playing with virtual machines, don't go and install this. Create your virtual machine with your hypervisor. But for us, for this video, I'm going to use Hyper-V. Maybe later on down the road, I'll switch over to Hyper-V. I'm sorry, I'll switch over to Workstation Pro because it is free nowadays, from what I've been told. You know, while I'm doing this, let's view here. VMware. I'm not sure if it's VMware anymore since Broadcom bought them. VMware Workstation Pro. Yep, here it is. VMware Workstation Pro, now available free for personal use. So be aware of that. So, anyways, this is a great product as well. This is what we used at the college level when I taught there. Great product because you can do snapshots and other things like that. But anyways, going back to this, going back to my VMware Workstation Pro. I'm sorry, going back to Hyper-V. This is the Hyper-V Manager. This is the program for creating a virtual machine on your computer. And the thing about a virtual machine is you're sharing resources with the host computer. The host computer is the actual physical computer that you can touch. So when I say you're sharing the resources of the disk space, the processors, and the memory. You're portioning out a part of that, of the disk space. You're assigning some procs of some cores, and the memory. So hence this whole concept of going to this PC and looking to see how much space I have here. I have 396 gigs free, almost 400. I'm going to create a virtual machine, and I'm probably going to create it with 50 gigs of disk space. I'm not even sure what the minimum requirements are of Windows 11. I want to say it's more than 50 gigs, so it might have to be bigger. Let's look that up as well. There's a thing as you teach, you start teaching, or you start getting into aspects of it, and then you think, well, am I right on that? That's where, hence my writings, I have to double check so much why it's so slow. Minimum requirements of Windows 11. Windows 10 was somewhere around 32 gigs, I think, when I last looked a few years ago. See, yeah, 64 gigs for storage, so it honestly needs to be bigger than Windows, than the 50 gigs I said. Let's look at Windows 10, because Windows 11 nearly doubled that of what Windows 10 was, since they took so much disk space. Yeah, 32-bit took about 16 gigs. When I first started teaching, it was this, but I think later on it was nearly 32 gigs, but maybe I'm wrong on that. See if I can find another one. Nope, that's the same thing. Either way, for this video, when I create a virtual machine, I'm going to be using probably about 100 gigs of this for this video. In the next year, I'm going to have to get a new hard drive, make an image of these installs for Windows 10, Windows 11, and throw the 4 terabyte hard drive in. But we're going to create a new virtual machine now that I have it downloaded. This is my disk file. This is this ISO that I walked us through and I downloaded. This is the Windows 10 ISO from this website right here that I was walking us through. This is the one that we downloaded right here. So we're going to create a virtual machine. We're going to install Windows. We're going to get this up to a point where we'll see where we land up. If I get the agent installed, and I say it that way because when you install the agent, the ConnectWise agent, it generally might take a little bit to show up in my program. This is the ConnectWise right here. This is the ConnectWise Automate. Within the program, what I mean by is once you have an agent installed onto a Windows 10, Windows 11 computer, it shows up, I believe, in This little area right here. My business used to be called Platinum IT Consulting. Um, and that's exactly right here is where exactly where you would see a new computer once the agent is installed. Generally, it takes I've seen it only take generally a couple minutes, but every once in a while it'll take a could actually take a few hours from time to time. It doesn't not often does it take a few hours, but I have seen it where I install an agent and it takes longer than I expect. But anyways, let's go and create a virtual machine. By creating a virtual machine on this computer, I'm going to go ahead and right click over here and go new and then virtual machine. And this is the wizard. It comes up, it says before you begin. I'm not going to read through all of this. I generally don't even like Hyper-V Manager from Microsoft. I mainly like VMware Workstation Pro, and I didn't use that because it was $200 per year. On Windows 10, I use Oracle Box, Oracle VirtualBox. That's a free product. Macintosh, I believe, has Fusion right out of the box. There might be some few others here or there, but I like Workstation Pro just because the application and the networking virtualization. Along with that, if I remember correctly, now don't quote me on this, Windows Hyper-V uses its own file format, whereas the standardization with the virtual machines is OVF files. And the other hypervisors I'm discussing here, you can take those OVF files and move them from one to the other, where I think Microsoft decided they want to be their own unique file format. And maybe you can take that and with a command line and move it from one to the other, but I feel like it's one of those things where Microsoft decided, well, we want to be different, so we're going to make our different product, or we're going to make our product different, which you can do. But it doesn't help us within the field, or it doesn't make it easy to go from one virtualization product to another. And maybe I'm wrong on that. I'm not looking to be course corrected on that. Yeah, and we'll go with that. But from here, it says before you begin, this wizard helps you to create a virtual machine. You can use virtual machines in place of physical computers. For a variety of uses, you can use this wizard to configure the virtual machine now, and you can change the configuration later using Hyper-V Manager. To create a virtual machine, do one of the following. Click Finish to create a virtual machine that is configured with default values. Click Next to create a virtual machine with a custom configuration. We're going to go with a custom configuration. So we're going to go next, and then it comes up and it says specify the name and location. For this, let's go with my name. I settled on CyberHands, and we'll go CyberHands blog VM. This will be for the purposes of the blog when I'm doing a video. And by default, this comes up and wants to go in C:\program data virtual Microsoft Windows Hyper-V. I think I've actually been storing my virtual machines in another location. So let me see if I can find out where that is fairly quickly. I think I generally just create a folder called virtual machines. Or Hyper-V. I probably did it in Hyper-V. Yeah, let's do this. Let's create a new folder here. And we're going to go with CyberHands. And now that I'm saying it, saying that domain name or saying that name, I should go out and register the name that I want for the website. And because it doesn't match, I'm going to have to get that branding all correct. And I will. Paste this in here, and then I'm going to go in here and select this path. And what I'm doing is I'm just going to paste this here. So I'm going to store these virtual machine information all in this folder. So I'm going to go next. And then they've got, well, which generation do you want? Generation 1, it says this virtual machine generation supports 32-bit and 64-bit guest operating systems and provides virtual hardware, which has been available in all previous versions of Hyper-V. And then Generation 2, which is probably what we'll go with, this virtual machine generation provides support for newer virtualization features, has UEFI-based firmware, and requires a supported 64-bit operating system. I generally haven't found a difference between Generation 1 and 2, but Generation 1 is more so for backwards compatibility. So maybe you have a older virtual machine that you're, carrying forward from 2010 or 2011, and you'd import it as a generation 1, or maybe it doesn't give you the option, but I'm going to generation 2. As you can see, once a virtual machine has been created, you cannot change its generation. So I'm going to go next. And then it comes up and says, well, how much memory do you want? By default, it says a gig. That's obviously not enough. On this computer, I have 64 gigs. Right click and go to properties on this PC, and it comes up in System About. FYI, Microsoft, everyone hates the fact that you are pushing everything from Control Panel into the Settings app. We don't care about the user interface. You are making a mistake. You'll never convince me otherwise of that. As you can see right here, my installed RAM, 64 gigs. So this host computer, this Windows 10 computer, has 64 gigs. I've bought and installed that much for these exact purposes because I knew I'd get to this at some point. Cybersecurity, programming, what have you, blogs. So I'm just going to do, let's give this virtual machine 8 gigs, right? Oops, that's not right. 8,024. So I'm not good at math. Never have been. 8 gigs in. So is it just 8,000? Oh, that'll be good enough. So we'll go with 8,000. That'll be 8 gigs. Use dynamic memory for this virtual machine. I always like to say no so it doesn't burst and take more in case there's a memory leak or something like that and suddenly your host computer is out of memory. A lot of people think that can't happen like that, meaning take all your memory. Well, that's exactly what a bug generally will do. It'll take as much as of it is available there, and then you're forced to reboot and start that virtual machine or find out what the fix is. So we'll go next. This comes up and says, well, what do you want to be connected to for the network? We're going to go with new virtual switch and go next. And then it comes up and says, create the virtual hard disk. So that location we created earlier, which is right here, this is where I'm storing the files. You're storing this, when you create this virtual machine, you're storing it on your hard drive. Hence, when I go back to this PC, I'm going to be taking some of this space here, this 396 gigs that I have free. I don't think it's, right here is where we say how big do you want this to be. Maximum 64 terabytes. Oh, I was going to say, well, hey, I thought that said 64 gigs. And I was going to say, well, how does that know I'm doing Windows 11? 64 terabytes, not 64 gigs. But anyways, I'm storing this information in this folder that we created earlier. And the size, we're just going to go with 100 gigs. You need 64 for Windows 11. We'll leave ourselves 40 gigs in case we download a bunch of stuff. I don't think I ever will on that virtual machine. Not 40 gigs worth or 35 gigs worth, but it's there if we need it. I can extend it if we need to, and then go from there. So I'm going to go and click Next on this. And it says install an operating system later, install an operating system from a bootable image file. A lot of people do this, and this is where they get into trouble a little bit. Or you can do install an operating system from a network-based installation server. That's where Windows deployment services come into play, WDS, which I used to teach at the college level, where you're installing across the network. You're installing using bootp technology, meaning you boot up and the network will see that an appropriate server where you can do the install across the network. We are obviously not doing that. So this, I said, is where a lot of people get themselves in the trouble because they see this and they select it right away. They listen to their instructors and they think, well, we'll do it with an ISO. That doesn't work the way I think everyone thinks it does, meaning it does a lot of automation for you and it doesn't say tried and true to how an install would work in the real world. So we're going to do install an operating system later. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. I won't show you the distinction of it, but when you do this one, and then you boot up off of that ISO, what would generally happen is it does a lot of the configuration for you, meaning logging in with the account from the host machine. And that's where students would veer from what I would teach in college, and I'd always tell them, well, that's not what we were doing in class, so you've done it differently than how we've done it. And they'd always ask, well, can I course correct this? Yeah, reinstall. Well, can you change it in any, change it? Yeah, you can, but there might be little gotchas, so you should always just do it the way your instructor says to do it. We're going to install an operating system later, and we're really just creating a VM right now. We really don't care about installing the operating system right now, and we're at the point right here of finishing creating this virtual machine. So I'm going to go finish, and it creates it. It's creating the disk, and if I go back here, we've got a new virtual machine. That's the one we just created. CyberHands blog virtual machine. And I'm going to right click on it and go to settings. And where's it at? I know it's here. Firmware, security, memory, processor, hard drive. Oh, am I going to not remember and have to pause the video? I think. So I extended that. So add hardware. And we want to add a DVD drive is what we want to do. Yeah, that sounds right. And by default, and that's a good point as well, when you create a virtual machine on Hyper-V, they don't have it with a CD-ROM drive, whereas virtual machine VMware Workstation Pro does have. When you create a virtual machine, it's created with a virtual CD-ROM drive. That's a distinction, a difference between the virtualization products. Now, I've never purported to be a virtualization specialist. I've been using and creating virtual machines and managing, being the administrator of virtual machines for 15 years now, over 15 years. And with that, there's just a lot there, but just making that minor distinction of why I had to pause there. So I'm going to go add. I think this is the right way, and then it comes up, says, okay, select the controller location. Generally, the SCSI controller and the location is fine. It says specify the media to use with your virtual machine drive. This is where you're specifying your ISO file, and this is why I make that distinction. Going back to when we created this, if you would have put that check mark in, used the ISO file, that whole concept I was talking about there, where it does some automation for you, that might be me remembering how VMware Workstation does it. Either way, this is the way I always teach it because there's two separate processes here. When I go, say, image file and then browse to that image file, I'm going to go to the downloads because it's in my downloads and select this. This right here, this part is basically the same as if I had a physical disk. If I took this ISO and burned it to a DVD ROM or an image file, a disk file, or a USB file, and then inserted it, this would be the same equivalent of that. So I'm going to hit apply and OK. And the thing is, the distinction is, when I turn this on now, it's going to open up a virtual machine image window. And like I said, what we just did was as if we physically inserted the ROM image or the USB drive. And there's a process where you need to boot off of you need to hit the boot menu of what you want to boot off of so you can select that image file, select that DVD ROM, select that CD ROM. Windows is to the point where it's too big to fit onto a CD-ROM or a DVD these days. I think it has to be a Blu-ray. Most people generally don't do that. Optical drives are dying. I understand that. But every once in a while, I still run into that, or you still teach it for a historical purpose statistic, right? So I'm going to double-click on this right now and make this full screen. I am clicking on this and making it full screen, and it won't go full screen for some reason. Okay, let's see if we can start this. So when I click start, it's a virtual machine. Keep that in mind. So it's going to start going through a process. It's going to virtualize. It's going to go through a simulation of what it would be with on physical hardware. All virtualization technologies are great, but this isn't a one for one, right? And what I mean by that is virtualization technology will never be the same as actual physical hardware. What do you mean by that? VMs are not a one for one for how a server might actually work on if you actually have a problem or a networking problem. Um, I would always teach my students of if you want to know how an operating system works, get it on physical hardware so you can see how it might hang, or you're trying to do some networking of how it actually works in a real world without the virtualization there. I'm not making a pro or a con statement, but it works a little bit different on actual physical equipment is the distinction. All right, let's see if this will start. Starting virtual machine. I'm going to click inside this virtual machine. Where did it go? And I need to hit the boot menu as this starts. And I forget which one it is. It's like F12 or something, F12, F9. So I'm actually hitting a bunch of keys on my keyboard, hoping that I can hit the boot menu. Whenever you do this in a classroom setting, especially with new students, because this is where it gets a little steep, but it's not too steep where you start doing it. Once you start seeing what you're expecting to see, you understand how it works. But it's just getting to it the very first time. And maybe I have to do a Google search. In my teachings, there's so many things to remember all the time. When I teach on Thursday and Friday night, I'm teaching till about, I'm teaching for 3 hours. By the time you get to that third hour of talking, the memory recall starts getting is not as sharp as you want it to be. Pressing, oh, I just missed it. It came up. It said press any key to boot off of USB drive or CD, DVD, ROM drive. In this case, it did it automatically, I believe. But this is booting off of that physical that ISO that we inserted. Let's see, can I make this full screen? Yep, I can. Don't want to though, because if I go to File, Settings, we created this DVD ROM drive and we inserted the ISO file. That's what this is right here, this ISO file that I took you guys to with the Windows Evaluation Center. We filled out the paperwork. We downloaded that. That's what this is right here. We're downloading an ISO, and we created a virtual machine, and then even though it's an image file, we're basically objectively telling this virtual machine to boot off of this ISO. On physical computers, when you build a new computer and you turn it on, if it doesn't have an operating system boot installed, it boots up, it does the BIOS check, and if there's nothing there for it to boot off of, it basically gives you a message like invalid, nothing on the hard drive, invalid system disk, something like that. Retry, reboot, whatever. If you take an ISO, burn it to a USB device, plug it in, and then boot off of it, it will scan certain things. You generally need to hit F12 or F9 on a real-world computer to get to the boot menu, the one-time boot menu, and then you'll see your USB device and you tell the computer to boot off of that. It will see that ISO image then, and then it will basically give you that message of hit any key, and you have to hit any key on a real-world computer and start booting off that USB device and then get to this screen right here. From here, this is basically saying, hey, we're at the Windows installation screen. Our language to install, our time and currency format, our keyboard is English. Keyboard is, we have different ones. Where I'm in the United States. I'm obviously going to the United States. And then US. I'm going to go next. I can either do install. I'm going to end up doing install now. If I was troubleshooting a real computer, I'd go to repair your computer. That'll be another video for someday and age. I'm going to do install now for this one. But if you're having troubleshooting problems, like a computer won't boot, or if you have an image of your Windows 10 computer made with Windows, meaning the backup and restore software, well, if I do create a system image, this is what I use for making an image of my computer. I think Microsoft has said they're going to remove this, which I think is a mistake. This has been around since Windows 7, obviously, hence it says backup and restore Windows 7. I use this all the time, and I have been using this all the time. I'll make a backup of my entire hard drive, If a hard drive is going out, I will replace the hard drive, and then I will boot off of a USB device with an that has an Windows ISO image, and restore my computer with that image that I created. That image is created or backed up to a external USB device. In fact, I just did it on this computer just a week ago. But I'm going. That'll be another story. I'll probably another video I'll do someday. While this is still here, a couple years ago I came across something that said Microsoft is going to remove this. Honestly, I think that they should leave this. I mean, this is a great tool. And I know there's other third-party tools out there, but this is built right into the operating system. If it's an option of last resort, meaning you have a customer that calls you and you find out there's a hard drive going out, and you have to make an image right away, it's there, right? It's there. You don't have to go and download something. If you have a computer that's failing, that is so problematic where it's not working correctly. And I think they want to restore or move this out or get rid of it because everyone's pushing cloud services, right? There was a new tool a while ago, and I literally hate it. Let's see if I have it. I think I do. Back up and sync your settings. Let's see what this is. This might be what I'm talking about. Yeah, there was a new backup tool that came out about a year ago, and I haven't gotten into it, but that's my own personal preference. So many things are going to the cloud and being forced in that regard, and that's where we feel like our options are being limited. We're not. Let's stop. Let's put a pin in that. So from here, I'm going to go install now. It says setup is starting. And we're about, 50 minutes into this, 40 minutes into this. Maybe we'll just get to the point of a virtual machine and doing updates. And maybe I'll pause this. This PC doesn't meet the minimum system requirements to install this version of Windows. What did I do wrong? That is interesting. I wish it would tell you why. Let's go back and look at the minimum install requirements. Let me shut this off. Hold on, let's do this. Settings. Okay, memory, virtual processor. Maybe I do have to go to the generation one. Let's shut this off. Let's power this down. Shut down. Yeah, this is how virtual machines work once in a while. They don't work the way you want them to. A little tricky. Okay, can we reset it? Oops, I don't want to reset. I don't want to save it. Okay, so it saved it. Let's start that back up and see if I can reset it. And then shut it down. Turn off. Let's do this one. Yeah, we don't care about data loss. We don't have any data right now. I don't think there should be anything that I have a problem with, though. Let's up the, let's increase this. Let's go 16 for memory, even though I don't think it's memory. Virtual processor, let's give it 3 since I've got enough. We have enough hard drive space. If I go here, let's go to this path. This should be. How big is this? Did I go with 40? Did I set that wrong? I might have set that wrong because I am in that habit of doing that. So maybe that's what I did. Let's delete this virtual machine and recreate it while we're on this video and get this going. So let's go ahead and, because this is good. This is good for everyone to see this, right? Let's go ahead and delete this. Make sure you want to delete all the, yes, let's delete this. And let's go new. Virtual machine. I'm going to go through this more quickly. Quicker. CyberHands, blog, VM, make that a space. and store it here. And let's get the path I want to save it in. See, and let's make sure there's nothing in here, right? Okay, let's get rid of this. Copy this. Put this here. There we go. Go next. We're still going to go with generation 2. We're going to go with 16,000 for 16 gigs. Connected to new virtual switch. There's the name. There's the path. File. Yeah, I thought I said 100 gig. Let's go with the 127 gig. Let's not change it. Not that I think it matters. I mean, it does matter, but I thought I had 100 gigs, but maybe I hit 40 because I was talking about Windows 10 at the same point in time. Let's go next. Install an operating system later. This is the option where if you do this when you create it in virtual VMware Workstation Pro, it would basically use the account from the host machine and then log you in the Windows 10 automatically. And if you're doing server products and then you create a domain, it doesn't work as well. There's little gotchas. They can be worked around, but that's where when you're doing this in a classroom environment, you want to do it step by step as your instructor until you understand. Okay. Right click, settings, and we want to add hardware, add, and we want to where do I choose the did I do that wrong? Settings, SCSI controller. Yeah, I did. I forgot to select this. Select a hard drive and add, or select a DVD drive. That's what I did wrong. And then image file is our ISO, which is in our downloads folder. Hit apply, hit OK. Now we turn on. And actually, let me go see something here. How big is that folder now? Nothing really there yet. It hasn't been turned on. This is the image file. So it's only 4,000. So start. Let's see. I'm not going to hit anything on this in this case right here. Let's see if it boots off of the image file, the ISO file right away once Pixie boot fails. I wonder if in my virtual machine I should be able to turn off Pixie boot. That's what that's called right there. This is the boot P, boot for WDS, Windows Deployment Services. New virtual machine. I wonder how you can turn that off. You could obviously probably remove the network adapter, and because that's what this network adapter virtual switch is. And then it shouldn't do boot P, or shouldn't do Pixie boot. Boot P, Pixie boot. Boot P is the older iteration. Pixie boot's the newer one, if I remember correctly. We kind of use those interchangeably in this field. You can't hit escape in this regard. It has to wait in timeout. Yep, there it's booting off the ISO. It's ISO. And let's just go next and see if it will meet requirements. Still not. Well, this is disappointing. What am I missing? When you close that like you did when I X'd out of there, it doesn't turn off the virtual machine. It's still running in the background. Because that's the purpose of a virtual machine. Let's try creating this with the other generation. And if that doesn't work, I'm probably going to have to end this video and find out why I can't create this. Or find out what I'm doing wrong. Because if I go back here, let's go look at what we downloaded. Windows 10, Windows 11 Enterprise. Let's go look and see what they say here in case I missed something or in case they've changed something. That's another thing too with the IT or cybersecurity world is, especially if you're away for something for a year or two, And it's not that I haven't created a VMs lately. I've created VMs left and right, but I don't think anything's changed. .64-bit ISO. Here's the local account they're talking about. They're removing that. People don't like that either. Okay, I'm not seeing anything. Maybe what I'll have to do is end up downloading the Windows 10 Enterprise. And while I'm saying that, let's start downloading this. Just in case we have to create this with the Windows 10 version. Just in case something's changed with the Windows 11, because there are so many things that can change on a day-to-day in day-to-day operations. So download now. Yeah. There we go. Download. And yeah, 64-bit edition. Let's download both just in case. Okay, this video is going to turn out much longer than I want it to, even though I don't want it to. Let's try and create another virtual machine. This will all be about creating virtual machines today and how it can go so wrong. New virtual machine. New, or next, CyberHands blog VM. Sort of different location. Actually, right there is where we want to go. Let's go with generation 1. Do not want to use dynamic memory for the bursting. We're going to, on this one, we're going to connect this after the install so it goes quicker. Honestly, and that's a good idea for virtual machines, so for this training video, so that people can see how that works. If anyone's watching, now that we're at the 52-minute mark. We'll go 100 gigs since I know that it wasn't me accidentally giving it Windows 10 minimum requirements. Yep, that all looks good. That all looks good. Let's go finish. It creates it. Right click, go settings. We want to add hardware. Where's my DVD option now? Let's cancel that. Right click, settings. So with this version, maybe that's what I'm doing wrong. With this version, generation, so that's something I just learned. Maybe I shouldn't admit that as on the fly as a training video. Again, I've never said that. I don't pretend to know everything. Generation 2, we saw that where I had to add the DVD drive. Here on a Generation 1, it comes up and says, what do you want to install? I'm willing to bet this is the mistake that I made. So let's see, where am I going here? So I'm going to go image file and browse to that ISO. And I'm in the middle of downloading Windows 10, so it should be this one by my timestamp, 8:20. So I'm going to double click on that. Go apply, go OK, and double click this. That opens up the virtual machine. We're going to hit start, and we're going to see how this goes. I'm not going to hit anything and try and get it to boot to the USB device. It should bypass Pixie Boot because it doesn't have a network card. Looks like it's booting right to the USB or ISO. booting right to that ISO file. Here it comes up with Windows. Very nice. Now it's working the way that I want it to. So yeah, maybe I should do a little bit more research between Generation 1 and Generation 2. Um, at this point in my career where I'm at, I really don't care. I just want a virtual machine. Um, yeah, and as I've said before, I don't really care for Hyper-V as a product, other than if I need to use it on a Windows product, I definitely can. Yeah, I mean it's nice, it's great. I'm not denigrating it. It's just the way that it works. Okay, so no, I misspoke. This PC can't run Windows 11, and I have no idea why. So let's see where we're at with Windows 10 install. And this is something I'm going to have to find out for Windows 10 why, or Windows 11 why it won't work on this. So let's see where that download is for Windows 10. We'll wait for this to download a little bit. I should have started this earlier now that we're at this issue, but this is what happens in the IT field from time to time, and I'm kind of confused because I've done this before. I've literally installed Windows 11 in this process on these computers before. I don't think it's my host computer. I've got other ones. Now these are Windows 10, but I installed these years ago. Let's see if I can find a blog post real quick. Or find a solution. Windows 11 VM does not meet minimum requirements in Hyper-V. See, when I find something like this, that tells you that other people are having this problem. Maybe it's a one-off. Yeah, and these are fairly recent, so... Oh, I'm willing to bet it's this. I don't have a TPM. See, okay, so here's my Windows 10 machine. I forgot. Windows 11 needs a TPM, Trusted Platform Module. I really want to kick myself. How do you add a TPM? Let's right-click, go to settings. Add hardware. How do you add a TPM? I had the same problem, but it was because I didn't have the TPM on Hyper-V 5. You can search for Hyper-V. Modify settings where I was, and then modify security settings. Okay. Where's modify security settings? I wonder if this is it. Open the VM, right-click the VM, and choose settings. Modify security settings. Why am I not seeing modify security settings? Here we are by default. Let's see if I do this. Let's add a key storage drive. No, I don't think that's it. Let's go back to our research. I'm not seeing this. Click settings, click security. I don't see security. Okay, here we go. Security, there we go. Okay, so I'm starting to remember this from VMware Workstation Pro, but that's been a couple of years. So let's do this on the fly. Let's add a key storage drive. I don't think this will work, but why not? Let's try this again. And if this doesn't work, we're going to go back to the other generation virtual machine. Try another one, which will be like what, the fifth virtual machine I've created this morning? But that's the way it works sometimes. Next, install now. Okay, still doesn't meet requirements. Are you sure you want to quit? Yes. Be quiet. Shut up. Shut off. Okay, let's go. Delete. Let's go here to... Actually, I've got too many folders there. This is the path that I want. I did it wrong before. Right click, new virtual machine. Next, generation 2, next, 16 gigs. Next, not connected. Nope, 100 gig. Next, and install an operating system later, and finish. Right, oops, double click, and file and settings, and security. Enable secure boot. Okay, here we go. This one right here. So, my mistake on anyone following me with this video. That's the other thing too. I'm not going to do these videos and then spend time editing them. I mean, I'm going to record them and then just put them up there live. And the whole reason why is because I want people to see what it works, how it goes in the IT field. I'm not going to edit this and make it look like I know everything that I'm doing right away. Or that mistakes don't happen. Maybe I should say it that way. Mistakes happen in this world, and mistakes happen in this field. The TPM, I know and I teach about it, but I forgot. It's not on my day-to-day mindset, even though it should have been. But that's what we're missing. So I'm going to go back up here and add the network or the DVD drive now, and add. And choose the image file. And now we should be getting into the right direction to get to Windows 11. Let's see, which one's Windows 11? 820 by the timestamp. That should be the first one. Apply. And OK. And let's start this and see what happens now. I think we're on the right track. So we probably won't get to the point of... yeah, I still did it wrong. And maybe I won't even get to the point where I'm going to use this video. Settings. Okay, security. Let's take off this enable secure boot. That might be it too. We're not trying to do a boot image. Do I have the wrong image selected? Turn off. So, DVD, image file. Yeah, that should be my Windows 11 one. Windows 11 ISO. I want that one. TPM, enable secure boot, enable trusted platform. I don't think it's this, but we'll try it. I'm gonna try this till we get it working, and maybe I just have to go back to Windows 10 until I figure this problem out. In which case we'll get a Windows 10 virtual machine going, and I do a little research on this. Try this option. Let's try open source shield VM. Okay, can't modify that. How about UFI certificate authority? Can't modify that. Microsoft Windows. Alright, so feels as if this should all be correct, so I'm gonna have to do some little research. Let's go to Windows 10. Which one's which here? This should be the 64-bit. I'm going on that by the fact it's a little bit bigger. And for this, I'm going to turn off the TPM. Windows 10, you don't need a trusted platform module. Windows 11, you do. This should work. So I'm going to have to figure out why I can't install what I'm missing with the TPM with Windows 11 on this virtual machine. And maybe it's my host computer. That's something where I might be disconnected on. Still not. Let's go back to, let's turn this off. This video is starting to turn into a disaster, which I'm not happy about. Let's remove this. Hit apply. Let's add a DVD drive. Add. Image file. Browse. Download. And this should be the 64-bit version of Windows, I assume. Secure boot is, nothing is on secure boot or the TPM. Start. Okay, so let's turn this off. Let's delete, and we're going to recreate this again as Generation 1 and go with Windows 10. And go here so I get the right folder. Yeah, let's delete this. Take that path, right click and go New Virtual Machine. Go next, give it the name CyberHands for the 1000th time. And this is generally how something goes in the IT field from time to time. And like I said earlier, I don't plan on doing this first and then seeing what works and doesn't work, or editing the videos to make it look like I know everything that I'm doing. I know a lot of stuff, but there are times where something might change on you. And this is one of those. And that's just the way it works in our field. So I'm doing this one as a Generation 1 now. And pretty much everything's the same, but it's Generation 1 that I've gone over. Right click and go to Settings. And here's my DVD ROM drive now. So I'm going to point towards this image file. And go to my downloads. Oops, those are my documents. Go to my downloads, and this should be my Windows 10 64-bit. And let's turn this on. Let's see what we get. That looks better. So yeah, like I said, unfortunately there's something between Generation 1 and Generation 2 I don't understand. There's some research I'm going to have to do between Windows 11 and the Generation 1, Generation 2. For now, we're just going to focus on a Windows 10 virtual machine. Maybe I'm gonna have to reevaluate too. Maybe I don't want to put this machine, this video up, but I also like to see how I fail from time to time. That's just the way it goes in this field. So I'm going next in installing. If I get another message of it doesn't support requirement, okay, there we go. This is what I'm expecting to see. We're not getting the this does not support requirements. I'm going to say I accept the license terms, and I'm going to go next, and then it goes which type of install do you want to do. I'm going to go custom install Windows only advanced. This is what you generally do with a new install. If I did upgrade only, it's just going to start installing, which pretty much they're almost the same. But if you're upgrading from an older operating system, Windows 8, things like that, um, that's where you do an upgrade. Generally, we don't teach do an upgrade. You install clean, you install fresh. Here we've got the install space, 127 gigs. I'm going to go new. Whenever you have a hard drive, whether it's a virtual machine or a physical computer, actual physical hardware, you have to take that hard drive, you have to partition it. If I went next, which I could do next, Windows would partition it automatically. When I do new, that's what it's going to do. It basically says how much space do you want to use. I'm going to just say take all of it and hit apply. It says to ensure that all Windows features work correctly, Windows might create additional partitions for system files. This is where it will create what's called an EFI partition and maybe a RE, a recovery partition, recovery environment. OEMs generally have three or four. This is the EFI partition, which is very small. That's the boot partition. This is the main partition for Windows. And then on other ones, I've generally seen what's called a RE, recovery environment. And there's more than likely going to be a recovery environment when this is done installing. If I just would have clicked next, it would have done the same thing. It's just that you wouldn't have seen this on the video. Next, click next. It's going to do copying, and basically this is the install right here. So yeah, I don't know if I feel like this is a success or not. Ended up spending a half hour there working with those virtual machines. I don't know if that's egg on my face, if I look bad or not. Again, I've never been one where I'm just going to make myself look perfect. So I might just go ahead and upload this later on in the afternoon today, rather than re-record it, because this is what happens in our field. Something might change, and I know I've done Windows 11 installs on Hyper-V before. So I might just do some research and continue on, and for the purposes of the blog, use Windows 10 for this point only, and then maybe in a year come back and say, okay, let's do Windows 11 and do it, circle back around. I always like to use the term circle back around, and let's create another virtual machine. Um, yeah, because the purpose, whether it's Windows 10 or Windows 11, it doesn't need to just be on Windows 11. We're just trying to get to the point of having a virtual machine so that I can install the ConnectWise security agent so that I could go through um, this part right here, go through these and recreate this. What I'm going to end up doing is recreate what I'm laying out for. This is a security baseline. And for anyone that wants to get into this field, now you have, in my opinion, now you have a how to and a how not to create a virtual machine video with this. And you can follow along of what I'm saying. For anyone that's reading my articles and you're going, well, what's this guy talking about? That's what I'm building up into of my security baseline that I use with my business, and enhancing a lot of the security features within Windows. So now that we're at this point, I think I'm going to let this finish. I'm going to reboot, and I think what I'm going to do is at least get to the point of installing my agent, if I can get that onto the machine fairly quickly. So let's let this finish. It's almost to the point where it's going to reboot pretty soon. Come on. We're getting there. We're getting there. Restarting. Let's click restart now. So this is where it comes up again. This is where our students get into another loop. It came up, it said uh, pressing key to boot from CD DVD. Well, the image file is still in there. The image file is still loaded, so it's trying to boot off that virtual ISO. It'd be the same as a physical device. If it was a physical device, what you'd teach and what you'd say is remove the ISO file, and then it won't try to boot off of that ISO image, which is okay, which is fine. It's just students see it the first time, they think they're supposed to do it, and then they keep getting into a loop, sometimes 2 or 3 times. One time I had a student that veered from what I said in class, and he took that image file and he just didn't load it up into a VM. He just started he double clicked on it and just launched it, and he basically took his physical laptop and upgraded it, and that was a server product that we were doing, and it's like I had to give them a talk of, guys, you need to listen to what I'm saying. And this is why we record the video, and if you're not sure, go back and watch the video or come see us during our office hour, is the whole thing. I also used to teach on week 2 how to make an image or how to make a backup of your computer, and we would use this. He also skipped that part as well because he said, well, can I do that later? You can, but you should do it now. And he found out quickly why he should have done it now. So yeah, be careful with these types of things, especially if you're new to it. It's always good to measure twice, cut once, to use that analogy from woodworking. Yeah. Almost to a desktop. Oops, didn't want that in that window. I'm looking for my OneDrive. See if I can get my agent. Now, with certain VMs, certain VM products, you can copy from the host to the virtual machine. Within the settings of the virtual machine, there's an option. Where's that at? Integration services, guest services. Let's put that check mark in, hit apply, and hit OK. I don't think there's anything else for this to copy from one direction to the other. I'll leave that on, put that on nothing because I don't need it to start when it shuts down. So anyways, this setting that I just had open and up for right here under management, no, right here under integration services, those guest services, I should be able to copy from my host machine to the guest machine, theoretically. I say it theoretically because I've seen it with Hyper-V where you can't do that from time to time. So Windows 10 comes up, says let's start with a region. Obviously I'm in the United States, I'm going to go next. US, yep, that's me for the keyboard layout. Want to add a second keyboard? No, obviously not. Let's connect you to a network. What am I going to say? I don't have internet right now. Continue with limited setup. This is where they're trying to force an online account. I don't want to do that. I want to go with what's called a local account. There's quite a bit of hubbub in our community about that. So for us, they say, well, who's going to use this? For this purpose, since my blog is going to be called CyberHands, we're going to go CyberHands and go next. And password, I'm just going to go password 1 because it's a training video. I don't want to use the real passwords that I use. I have to make sure that I keep that in mind as I move forward and do this. This is one thing that I literally hate with this stuff. I think this is a horrible thing, this security questions. But what do I know? I'm not a developer. I don't work for Microsoft. choose your privacy settings. Generally, turn all this stuff off, and for the purposes of this and time, I'm just going to say OK. That's all the telemetry they do. Do you want to let Cortana? No, we don't like Cortana. Turn that off. I don't like Cortana. I think it's horrible. This is where it's basically creating the profile, logging us in. So might have to shut this thing. I might have to shut this VM down for the guest services to take effect. By the guest services, I mean the integration services of that check mark. That check mark should allow me to copy a file from the host machine to the virtual machine. But I've seen it where Hyper-V doesn't work that well with it. And if that doesn't work, I might have to find another way. But I at least want to get the agent installed. And then I think I'll end this video because we're closing in on an hour and a half and it's getting to be a little bit too long. But hey, learning lessons, that's the way it goes. Should have just done Windows 10 right out of the box, but oh well. We can do another video next year on how to create a virtual machine, Windows 11, once I've found that solution, because it's not about just virtual machines, it's about just getting content and getting to the point of applying the security baseline that we're going over. Whether it's Windows 10 or Windows 11, these security baselines, what I'm showing in these videos will be the same, one way or the other. Almost there. Choose your size, connect. Okay. Log in with the password that we created. Now, so I'm going to see if I can copy from my host machine. Ooh, can I? Oh, perfect. This is my agent for ConnectWise Automate. And that always doesn't work. I seriously have seen it where it always doesn't work, even though I have verified on other machines this is on. And that's what it should be. So all I'm going to double click, or all I'm going to do at this point is install, double click this. This is my agent for the ConnectWise Automate remote agent. And this is so eventually it should show up, this computer should show up here. So I double clicked on that. It said, do you want to run this? Eventually it should come up. It says installation complete. Perfect. That's what I want to do. Now I'm not connected to the internet, as I can see right here. So this is where I'm going to go File, Settings. And for us, for the interest of getting this done quickly, I said this virtual machine, or this virtual machine with the network adapter is not connected. I'm going to connect this now to the new virtual switch and go Apply and OK. And this is where it should connect to the host machine. That's what it works. The host machine is sharing out its connection. This comes up, this virtual machine comes up, says, hey, do you want to be able to see other networks or be discoverable? This is actually a security risk. Generally, I'd say no, but since this is just a training video, I'm going to say yes. It's a smaller security risk than some other things, but it is still a security risk because you're letting your machine be out there discoverable by everybody else. So now that should be installed, let's verify, can I get to the internet? And the way I do that is launch Edge. And you know this, I'm going to say it, I really hate this about Edge. Just bring me up to your default home page and don't do this whole spiel. Just give me a browser bar so I can go and see if I'm going to get to where I want to get to. Complete setup. I swear, Microsoft developers, you're doing everything that you can to infuriate your user base. But this is why I'm in the middle of transitioning over to Kali Linux and getting certified in Kali Linux, or getting certified in Linux. So I went to google.com, and this proves that I'm on Google. Where can I buy milk? There we go. So that's a Google search. So, or on the internet. So from this point on, where I'm going to leave this at is I'm going to start doing Windows updates on this virtual machine, and I'll double check and see if it checked into my agent, if my agent checked in yet. But I doubt that it would in that short of time. But once in a while, I've seen it where it's checked in fairly quickly. And if it hasn't, we'll end the video and I'll upload this today or tomorrow. I think what I'll do is I'll probably buy that CyberHands domain now that I'm starting to put this into a video, so someone doesn't go and buy that domain and cyber squat me is basically the terminology since I've settled on that. Yeah, these updates are going now. We do updates for security and to fix patches or apply patches, fix holes, fix bugs, fix vulnerabilities, things like that. So from here, I'm going to bring this up, which is my agent or my ConnectWise tool, and I have to do this little thing right here, which refreshes it. Oh, it's there already. Beautiful. In this case, I installed the agent. That's what this is right here. I really didn't think it was going to come up right away because, like I said, it was I didn't connect it to the internet, right? So I've kind of seen it from some machines out there from time to time where it might take 10 minutes. Once in a while, I've seen it where it might take an hour or two. Generally, 90% of the time, it just takes a minute or two, so that's good to see. By default, Windows 10, they removed it some time back where they used to have it 20 years ago where when you went through and did the install, it was, hey, let's give this computer a computer name. I forget which version of Windows it was, but they started removing that. Windows 11, they added it back in, so during the setup, you can set the computer name. So by default, Windows, let's get in the PowerShell. By default, when you finish installing Windows, I'm in PowerShell, and let me make this a little bit bigger so it's easier to see for the video. Let's go up to 28 for the purposes of the video. Yeah, I'm typing in $env computer name. It comes up with a random generated name that the install does, which no one likes. I think no one likes. No one's going to use this name, but now I have to do it in the operating system. So I'm going to do rename computer. New name, and then the new name I want to be, let's call it CyberHands, since I'm focusing or settling on that for my website name and organizational name for cybersecurity, mental health concepts, or mental health, since that is so important. Yeah, we'll go with that. I'm going to hit enter on this, and it's basically going to come up and say you're going to have to reboot, and then the computer name after a reboot will not be this anymore. It will be this. So yeah, I'm going to stop there for this video, and I think I'm going to try and do another video next week picking up, and then what we're going to do is recreate the security baseline and go through. I'm going to try and get through part 1, 2, 3, and 4, and if it all works the way that I say it does, this is how we create this, then I'm going to go back of part 5 on the next documentation of how I created the security baseline and what you can all do with this, and flesh it all out, straighten this all out. Like I've said before, I think I said it before in the last video, the very first video that I did, this is actually turning out to be much longer of a process. I thought it might be at most 6 blog posts, but now I'm starting to think this is going to be somewhere between 15 and 20. But if there's anyone out there using Automate ConnectWise is a very good tool for MSPs or managed security providers or managed service providers, and you can do a lot with it. I know at one point I did connect to Automate ConnectWise support, and they ended up looking at what I had. The IT guy was, or the end guy was saying, you mind if I look at what you've got? And it was in the scripting, in the automation. I was like, yeah, go for it. And then he came back and said, whoa. And I was like, what? What's wrong? Do you see a mistake? And he goes, no. He goes, you have a lot of stuff in here. And I've got an onboarding script and I ended up calling this the Platinum Integrity Security Baseline. And I said, well, how much do you generally see people run? And he goes, maybe 2 or 3 items. He goes, you're pretty much setting everything. And I go, yeah, I'm automating this. That's the whole point of it. So that's the whole point of this, of doing this, of showing it. At one point when I was doing my business, I was trying to, keep it secure for my own purposes, because I was trying to market it as, I got something here that no one else does. I could never grow more than 3 customers, and it was really a little frustrating because you ended up going over the same things. Um, of why not to click phishing emails, things like that. So now I decided, okay, let's kind of shift focus. We're going to do a training website, use it for other purposes. So now I want to get it out there. Like I said before, at one point I called it the PISB, Platinum Integrity Security Baseline. Um, and so I'm doing this. I'm going over it to recreate it, because I actually created this back in 2018 or 19 when I first did this. And that's why I'm putting it on paper now. And then if anyone wants to, go ahead and use these ideas. Take it, make it better, and then maybe down the road, I'm going through doing development on my Linux box with GitHub, and I'm doing that for the Linux Plus certification that I have coming up, along with to get better at HTML coding, GitHub APIs. I've got a nice little program, I think, that's teaching me about Yara, and that I'm all tying together. And eventually, when I get, once I get that done and developed and delivered, maybe I'll take this once this blog series is done. Maybe I'll look at this and say, okay, how can I make this into just something that is downloadable and deliverable through GitHub, and apply it outside of ConnectWise Automate. But that's for down the road. For now, I'm at an hour and a half. Thanks everyone for watching through this, watching me struggle. Thanks for being here. I've enjoyed it. Hopefully everyone has a good weekend, and we'll go from there.